Hello, this is Todd Shults, and this is my ePortfolio review video. Coming through the ePortfolio on my content side, some of my personal and professional goals centered mostly around improving myself as a leader and an educator. One of them in the professional side was obtaining my building administration position and also being able to develop my skills as a leader through professional development, clinics, and conferences. Also wanting to stay current on technology, as I find that to be very important in today's learning environment. The other one was to continue to develop quality relationships with staff, community, and students. On the personal side, increased balance between work and home. That's something that's very, very important to myself and my family. I want to obtain a job closer to home so I don't have quite the commute that I currently do. I also want to be able to strengthen my organizational skills, something that I think is going to be the crux of being a successful administrator, is being highly organized. And sort of a fun one is I want to be able to go to Yellowstone National Park sometime in the near future. Moving through onto my leadership philosophy. This is something that I found that is absolutely an action, not a position. This is something that I learned that takes place day to day and month after month. So then year after year, you can build the leadership position as a verb, not so much as something that you just are, or a title, or a tab on your desk. I've always witnessed my most impressive leaders in my life as educators and the administrators that I had as a student. I've always wanted to absorb their qualities and take my favorite aspects of them throughout my life and into my professional career. Some of the stuff that I talked about in the leadership philosophy has to do with, I found myself to be the autocratic leader in the main aspects of my attributes. That has me to take much personal responsibility, expect work ethic from my staff and my students, be very firm but also very fair. And I also found that I mix that with the transformational leader, someone who's able to adapt and someone who's able to be a little fluid at times and also allow for personal growth through those adaptations. Program of study. This is something that I found to be very helpful as we started the process of taking these courses for my family to plan out not only the time that I would be involved in these courses, but also the financial aspect of it for us to be able to plan accordingly in the couple years that it took to do this, when we would expect to pay tuition and exactly what courses I would be taking when. And it also helped me sort of to outline my goals and what I wanted to get done in this coursework, knowing what course titles I would be taking and how that would affect my leadership skills. And I was also impressed with the university's ability to be flexible when I had to switch one of my previously decided time slots to a different semester and a different offering. And they had no problem with that, and that was all very, very nice to be able to do that without any hassle. My current resume is uploaded as well. This is something that I've used several times already as I've applied for jobs and had some interviews. I think that my resume is part of the reason I get interviews. It's very streamlined. It's very aesthetically pleasing. I don't think it's verbose. I think that there's just enough information on here for them to be able to see my education, what experience I have in regards to administration and teaching, and also what information they can glean from my related teaching and leadership experience through some of the activities that I've been a part of with adult groups, community groups, civic organizations, and so on. I also thought it was important to include professional affiliations because I think it's important to continue to grow as an educator and grow in my community of peers that I work with, and that's something that I thought was important to include in my resume. The annotated bibliography. This is something that I was a little uncertain of and a little scared of at first, but as I dove into it, I found that these 10 things that I went to seek out are going to be sort of in my bag of tricks for life, and then I can always refer back to them. The couple that really stuck out in my mind was the first one about 7 ideas to teach students work ethic. It mainly centered around the idea that parents don't expect the same thing from their kids as they did when they were young. And practical ideas for educators to be able to recognize the current work ethic from kids and be able to utilize that in the school setting. The other one that I really liked was the Budgets Toolkit. That was my 8th bibliography source. that was the one that I really took a lot from, with financial aspects and the legal aspects, and being able to come in and set a budget and stick to a budget and be able to design that for the benefit of the school, and also cover your bases when you're being in charge of that sort of money, that knowing that that belongs to the taxpayers and the community, and that's something that should be taken very seriously as you go through that. So again, that annotated bibliography is something that I'm going to keep and use year after year. I have my comprehensive exam scheduled for May 8th at 5 p.m., and I look forward to that. Moving to the meat of this portfolio, my activities that I was a part of, I thought was a very fair representation of not only content but time, the time that is needed for an administrator to be away from home, after school, before school, evenings, and weekends. I did 6 activities at the district level. And I think the one that stuck out most to me was the curriculum purchase that I got to be a part of. I worked with the district assistant superintendent, who's also the curriculum director. And basically what we did was we went in and analyzed the needs of the social studies department. And we then did research surrounding new curriculum purchase. We actually had some people come in from a book company and give us some presentations, and that's one of the pictures here, and also some flyers and brochures from that event. And then also the actual curriculum purchase stuff that we did with the social studies department. It allowed me to see exactly what the needs were in another department that I don't work in, and it also allowed me to see the extreme cost that we place on curriculum purchase in a large district. I think it was something like $200,000 for that K-12 social studies curriculum. Kind of blew my mind. On the secondary activities, that's the one I'll go to next, and that was one where I spent the bulk of my time there in the elementary middle side. And I would say that of these, I did 9 or 10 of these altogether. And the ones that stuck out to me was the teaching and learning activities that I did. This was one that I became fully aware of the myriad of possibilities of responsibilities on a principal or assistant principal. I went and observed musicals, plays, student performances, drama department performances, football games, basketball games, volleyball matches, wrestling tournaments. I mean, I just did it all. And it was great because I got to see kids in a different light than what I normally see in their classroom. And it was nice for them to be able to see me in that light too. The other big one that stuck out in the secondary side was in category 4. The collaborating with key stakeholders. This is something that I think is crucial in any school environment. I was able to take on a semi-administrative role in my district where I was sort of the gatekeeper for the district auditorium. I handled the calendar and the scheduling for the stage, and that included church groups, that included Boy Scout groups, local organizations, and even school organizations that needed to use the auditorium. It allowed me to keep that calendar and keep in contact with those people. And also then I was able to deal with audio visual, sound, lighting, all kinds of things in the auditorium. So again, it allowed me a really deep insight into what an administrator might have to do throughout a school year. Moving into the elementary side of some of the activities that I did, this one was nice because it allowed me to see stuff below what I teach. I only teach down to 5th grade, and what this allowed me to do was see 4th, 3rd, 2nd, 1st, and even pre-K at times, and what some of the things that they deal with that are so different from a middle school or high school administrator. On the elementary side, as I click through here, the one that I enjoyed the most was actually some of the coursework we had through Fort Hays State, and it was about, again, collaborating with key stakeholders, but in a way that made me analyze sort of data and sort of social aspects of my community, the district city life assignment, the understanding my community assignment, and also the visionary leadership assignment. Sort of allowed me to look through the aspects of what my community needs and what sort of things I'm going to do in the future to meet those needs. Another one that stuck out to me was a parent funeral. This was of a student of mine, and one that I thought was a critical aspect of an administrator that we don't really talk about in education too much, and that is when there is horrible incidents that happen, deaths in a family, for instance. it's important that an administrator is represented there, not only for the school, but for that student to see an administrator who cares about their personal life. So I thought that was really important that I was able to be a part of that and was able to represent our district there with this particular student's father. And that's something that I will forever remember as not only an instance where I connected with those students, but I was able to grow professionally as well. And as I move through on the activities, some of them are some of the activities from coursework that we have done, but I do take those very seriously, and I thought that those were great things that I can lean back on as I move through and become an administrator in the future. The reflection aspect was something that I typed up and really spent some time thinking through some of the prompts that we were asked to think through. Not only did I explore my thoughts and explore my preconceived notions, I was able then to go through and develop some of my explanations for my beliefs, and just putting those things down on paper really had an impact on me. And some of the things that I thought about in my head were not necessarily what I put down on paper in the end. As I typed and as I dissected some of these questions, I started to realize that some of my answers would be a little different than what they were originally. My conjecture question ended up being, how does the variety of coursework, the amount of new information, and detailed reflection develop the leadership and abilities of a future administrator? Basically, I want to know, what have I learned? How is that going to impact me in the future? Furthermore, what aspects of the coursework inherently change the compassion and understanding of the participant, that'd be me, for the betterment of the school environment? So I'm starting to look at the individual coursework and how that's affecting me as a future leader, and my passion and compassion for students and learning and teaching and being a leader in my building. And as I analyzed all that stuff, I started to see that I really could come up with some solid answers in what the coursework had offered me and what sort of things I was able to take from the coursework and now I think be able to apply through my teaching and being a leader in a school. On to my activity forms. I really liked these because they were digital and I could just click the information that I needed, and then they fully populated in my activity log the things that I had visited and the things that I had been a part of. You'll notice that I have 6 activities in the district level, and I have 9 activities in the secondary and 9 activities in the elementary level, all in each of the categories. Some of them doubled on the secondary and elementary side, which was some of the things that I spent the most time being a part of and observing and being on different teams. That allowed me to do a couple observations and a couple of my entries onto the same category for those secondary and elementary ones. I liked being able to see my responses here, as well as the dates and the time engaged, which again, I think was a very fair representation of the amount of time, if not some less than what an administrator actually has to put in throughout a given school year. It's just so much involvement in the school building, and that's something that again is going to help me as a future administrator be a better planner of my time and the time for my family, and also the time that I need to devote to my staff and my students at my school. The administrative verification forms are listed here, one for each levels that I did. And overall, I found this e-portfolio to be very helpful to keep track of all the stuff that we were asked to do in this coursework. And I look forward to visiting with you guys next week and go over this in more detail. Thank you.